everyone, this is Juanita the Sewnista, and I'm here to show you all how to sew a reversible child apron. That's a reversible child's apron. And here's one that I did prior. And we have a little pocket here that I put a little ruffle on. We have the straps, and then we have the neck strap as well. And then here at the bottom, we have another ruffle. So this particular apron was made out of 3 fat quarters. As you know, fat quarters are found at Walmart, Joann's, Hobby Lobby, and any other fabric store. And fat quarters measure approximately 18 inches by 22 inches. This is the other side of the apron. So out of those 3 fat quarters, here's the other pocket. This one I put rickrack on. So out of those 3 fat quarters, I was able to make this child's reversible apron. Okay? These are what fat quarters are. Fat quarters are those little square folded pieces of fabric that you can find. They're 97 cents, $1.47 at Walmart and Joann's. They may be a little bit more unless you catch them on sale or use a coupon. And then Hobby Lobby also has some, I believe, as well. So I always keep a lot of these when I catch them on sale, or I don't know what to buy with my coupons or what have you. I will just purchase a bunch of fat quarters, because there's so many things you can make out of fat quarters. If you scroll in our group, All Things Sewn, or maybe even through some of these videos here on YouTube, you'll be able to find some other things that I made with fat quarters. The fat quarters that I chose, that I selected rather, to do this apron out of, is I selected a yellow polka dot fabric. I chose these lines with the yellow stripes in the background, and I selected these mini dots, well, they're kind of polka dots, green polka dots. So those are the 3 fat quarters that I'm using to create this apron. And once again, they measure 18 inches this way by 22 inches this way, okay? So you're going to need 3 fat quarters. What else you're going to need is any type of heavy string or string that, you know, has many strands. And this happens to be embroidery floss. I'm going to be using this to create my gathers or my ruffles for the bottom piece on my apron. You're going to need 2 buttons. These buttons here I purchased at Joann's. They're 99 cents for the 4. Don't have to be, you know, no expensive button or anything like that. Remember, it's just a child's apron. I also used the 60% off coupon, so after tax, these buttons came to 43 cents. I'm going to be using some of this rickrack to put on my pockets on my apron. This was $1, and it comes on a little card at Walmart. And what else we have here? I'm going to be using my beeswax, and I'm going to do my beeswax really quick right now. Basically, I just run my embroidery floss or thread or whatever through my beeswax, and that's to kind of stiffen it a little bit so that when I sew it, use it to sew my zigzag stitch to create my gathers, it's a little bit stiff, okay? So you don't have to use that, that's optional. You're going to need a rotary cutter if you're using a mat to cut, or the only little piece that we're going to be really actually cutting off of the fabric is the armhole part. So you may need some scissors, but it's good to have both. You're going to need a ruler as well. This here is my ruler guard. If you're interested in getting one of those, drop a comment and I'll let you know where to purchase one of these at. But these are very handy so that you can protect your hand when you're cutting with your rotary cutter on your mat. That's optional, but you do need some type of a ruler, okay? And of course, an iron and ironing board, okay? The last thing you're going to need is the pattern piece for the child's, well, actually, it's going to be the child's fat quarter. This is for the child's fat quarter apron, and this is the armhole pattern. And you're going to be cutting 2 from each fat quarter of fabric. You're going to also include a 3/8 inch seam. So this whole apron, when you're sewing it together, you don't want to take up more than a 3/8 inch seam, okay? This pattern piece, the link to cut this out with the instructions on how to lay it and cut it from your fabric is in the comments below. So just check out the link below to get this. I don't usually charge much for the pattern pieces that I be using on most of the videos, but however, I do, you know, charge a little bit of something to recoup some of the time I've spent creating these patterns or creating these videos as well. So in light of your support, that's why there's a charge if you want to get that pattern piece, or you can try to make one yourself. Okay, so we're going to begin here with the 2 pieces that's going to actually create our apron. Okay, so this part of the video, what we're going to be doing is cutting out the apron itself. So you're going to take one of those fat quarters, you're going to fold it lengthwise along the longest part of the fabric, which is the 22 inches. Okay, and that's going to make one side of your apron. The other part, or the other side of your apron, you choose another one of your fat quarters, and as you can see, I got coordinating fat quarters here, and you're going to fold that in half. The reason mine folded in half so easily, you guys, is because I had already pre-ironed my fold in. Okay, so you're going to have those 2 pieces, okay, which are going to be folded to create a fold. And then what you're going to do is take your pattern piece, and you have 2 straight sides and you have a half circle on one. What you're going to do is you're going to lay your pattern piece. See how the point comes here to this point? So you've got your pattern piece laid on one edge of your fabric. We're going to just pin that here. And then we have the other straight piece on the other side of the fabric. Okay? So it's going to look like this. I'll turn it around. Okay? So this is folded the long way. And I'm going to go ahead and finish pinning this. Just make sure that you don't lay this piece over here, because these are your folded edges, okay? You need to lay them on the raw edges, the straight piece of the pattern on your raw edges, okay? And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to cut this armhole out. You could use your rotary cutter. I'm cutting through 4 layers of fabric here, you guys. I don't know if I grabbed the right scissors or not, but it is cutting. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut that away, okay? Now, as you can see here, that's the armhole of the apron. I'm going to fold this and put this to the side. And the pieces that you cut from the armhole, from the fabric to create the armhole, these are going to be your pockets. That's going to go on the front chest part of each of the apron. So this is going to be a pocket, and this is going to be a pocket, okay? And remember, you're going to take a 3/8 inch seam. I'm going to show you guys how to sew those in a minute. So do not throw these away. Just because we cut an armhole out, we want to use all of our scrap pieces as well in this project. So these are going to be your pockets, okay? Out of the 3rd piece of fabric, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be cutting the ruffle. And remember, this is 22 inches this way and 18 inches this way. And what I'm going to be doing is cutting a total of 4 inches. So my first piece that I'm going to cut away from this piece of fat quarter is going to be 4 inches. Okay? Get this lined up. over it again. So that's one 4-inch piece. That's going to be a ruffle. And then we're going to cut away another 4-inch piece. And those two 4-inch pieces, we're going to be sewing together here pretty soon. Just go ahead and cut 2 of those. Let me make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Okay. So this is another 4-inch piece. So those are your 2 pieces to create the ruffle for the bottom of your apron. The next piece you're going to cut out is another 4-inch piece. And this 4-inch piece is going to create your neck strap. The part that's going to go around at the top of the apron to create the neck strap. Okay? So we have that 4-inch piece. Didn't cut all the way through here. And then you should have 6 inches of fabric left. Bringing this down here. And now we need the apron ties. And because this is 6 inches of fabric that's left, we're just going to cut this in half. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Okay. So now we have 2 3-inch pieces, okay? And like I say, those are going to create your apron straps. So now that we have our apron all cut out, we're going to be going over to the sewing machine. Okay, so now we're at the sewing machine. And those 2 of the 4-inch pieces, I'm going to sew them together. And remember, it's going to be a 3/8-inch seam. Make sure to backstitch at the beginning and at the end. We're going to cut this away here, the little threads. And now this made 1 full long piece, okay? So now what we're going to do is fold this in half, lengthwise, that means the longest way here, and make sure your seams match up. And then you're going to come down here and you're going to sew a stitch to create a zigzag. And what I've already done is I taped that piece of embroidery floss. I taped it right here to the back of my machine, and I'm just putting it under my presser foot, and I'm putting my presser foot down. Well, I'm going to actually do a zigzag stitch, so I'm going to change the setting on my sewing machine to a zigzag stitch, and then of course the length of the stitch I want kind of wide to go across, and I'm going to just zigzag right across the top of this embroidery floss, and make sure that you keep your edges even as you do this. And you could have ironed this down, but I didn't want to leave outside of the camera, so I'm just doing this away. And if you notice, this zigzag stitch is right across that floss, okay? I'm not sewing through that floss, so be careful not to go through the floss. And we're just going to do this until we get all the way down to the end. Make sure you remove that little pin I put there. All this stuff here, okay. I got all these little extra threads here. I want to kind of get them out the way so they don't interfere when I go to pull the gathers. from the machine. Guys, bear with me here because I want to get this all nice and straight. You don't want to backspace this to come off with that because you don't want to stand the chance of having to sew through the embroidery floss. So now what you're going to do now is just simply pull that embroidery floss and it begins to create your ruffle. So you can pull it from both ends, and what you're going to be doing is lining this ruffle up with the bottom of the apron, okay? So you don't want to pull too much. I think I pulled too much, but I'll pull some of that out when I get ready to sew this to the bottom of the apron. So there is your ruffle for the bottom. So you can set that to the side. Your next 4-inch piece is your strap. And what you want to do is you want to close one end of the shorter end. You want to fold this in half lengthwise. Take up 3/8 inch seam. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to change my settings. Let me change my settings back here. Okay, and you want to this side. One side of that strap, and then you want to come down the longer edge, raw edge, you know. You want to sew this straps. Now I don't want you to come across this side because we need to be able to turn this inside out. But what I do want you to do is go ahead and clip your corners diagonal, cut off a little excess of that seam that's over there so it sort of looks like this. Can you guys see that? Okay. Now we're going to turn this inside out. You can turn this inside out with a pen, with your tie turners or whatever. I don't have anything here handy, but I'm going to use my scissors and be very careful so I can turn this inside out. But, you know, a stick or something like that, if you have one of the little wooden dowels, you can use that. I do have a tie turner, but it's in the other room. So I'm going to just turn this inside out like that, okay? And then, of course, you want to get these ends here in the corner turned the right way. Okay, and then we're going to be taking this stuff over to the ironing board. Right now, I just want to get it sewed up. So that's going to be your neck strap, okay? So that piece is your neck strap. The last two pieces are the 3-inch pieces, okay? And these are going to be used for your apron ties. And you're going to sew them just the way you just sew the neck strap. You're going to come across one of the shorter ends. This time I'm leaving my needle down in the fabric, lifting my presser foot and turning. You're just going to come across this, and you're going to do it the same way. Just keep your raw edges even. Okay, and of course, you're going to go ahead and cut off the extra little seam there, and then you want to cut the corner diagonal. Okay, I'm not going to turn that one inside out right now. I'm going to go ahead and sew the other one. Sewing the shorter edge first. Make sure the back stitch. I came off of that one that time, but... And then we're going to go down this edge. I have all these little extra strands. strings. I don't know why this fabric is doing that, but yeah. Go ahead and sew down this side here. Okay, so now we have both of our apron ties done. And I'm going to turn those inside out in a sec, but I'm going to go ahead now and we're going to do those pockets. So you're going to take the 2 pockets from one design of the fabric, and we're going to match up all these sides. And what you're going to do when you sew this is you're going to leave a 2-inch opening so that you can turn this pocket inside out. So I'm going to start from the point of the fabric here, and I'm going to back stitch there. I'm going to lift my needle. I'm going to pull it over about 2 inches, or enough for me to stick my finger or whatever in there to turn it inside out. And then I'm going to clip this thread here so it's not pulling. And then I'm going to put it to this side. And really, on your machine, your 3/8 inch, if you have a standard presser foot on, you should be able to put that fabric and line it up right against the edge of the foot. And that's approximately 3/8 inch seam, okay? You don't want to take up a seam larger than that. And now I'm coming down the other side, and this side I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close it up because I've already left my opening on the other side. If you forget, then you can always open, a few stitches with the seam ripper. Then what you want to do is you want to cut again your corners diagonal. That way when you turn it inside out, you'll get more pointed corners. And then I'm going to just trim a little bit of this off. Usually I'll just clip into this, this away, but I find that when you're working with something so small, you can go ahead and just cut, a little bit more of this off. And then of course you have this point here that you want to cut diagonal as well. And then you're going to be able to turn this inside out. And I'm not going to bore you guys with ironing all of this. I'm going to iron this off camera. And when I come back on, it'll all be ironed. And I think you guys all know how to iron, so I don't have to show you how to do that, right? So you're just going to turn this pocket inside out, and if you need to poke the corners or whatever, you can do that either with a stick if you have a dowel or something like that, just to get these corners poked out. And there's 3 points, so there we go. You can use whatever. Okay, so that's going to be one of your pockets. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other pocket, so you guys will get a chance to see this twice. Starting at this end here, 3/8 inch seam. Make sure to back stitch. I'm going to sew this one up this time, just to show you. Uh-oh, my thread came unthread. Hold on. Let me rethread my machine. Quick here. Okay. My thread had come out there. Alrighty, so I'm going to sew this pocket up. I came off the edge there, and I'm starting again around the half circle part of this. And this time, I'm going to leave the opening on this side. So I stitched, brought my needle up. You could either cut this away right now, and then start about 2 inches down, come off the edge. And then again, make sure to cut these points. have 3 points on this pocket, just cut them away. And then cut off the excess, or you can clip in this away, but not clipping into the stitching. And this will help you to smooth this rounded part off. Okay, so I'm going to do that this time. Then, like I say, turn this inside out again. I like when I kind of cut it away because it doesn't leave a whole bunch of fabric or anything like that. Now it's not quite time to sew the apron up, because the next step that we're going to be showing you is how to pin the ruffle to the bottom of your apron. So we just want to get this all out, get everything pointed out, these 3 pointed edges. Okay, you guys, now we're back, and I had just finished turning this yellow pocket inside out. And what we're going to be doing now is ironing down all of these pieces nice and flat. So, move the straps here out the way. And you're just simply going to take these, and I hope my iron is hot enough. Let's see. I don't know if it's hot enough. But you're just going to iron these seams down, and you're going to make sure that this edge here that's rounded, that it's ironed down nicely as well. Okay, I'm going to give my iron a second here to heat up. Okay, there we're heating up now. The heat is on. Okay, so now we have this pocket done, and if some of the edges is not pointed, you can take a pen, or just like I just took my scissors, I have a little small pair of nippers here, to get those poked out really nice. Okay, so now we have this flat pocket that's going to go on one part of the apron, and then we're going to go ahead and iron this one as well, making sure that we open out this so it's nice and rounded. And once again, if you feel you need to poke a little bit more of this out, go ahead and do that as well. Okay, put the little thread here. Okay, and now for the opening that was there, you can either close that up now with some stitch wickery, or the heat and bond little tape. I'll just stick a little piece of that right in here, and I can seal that closed. Or when you get ready to sew it onto the apron, you can close it. So there's one of your pockets, and where's the opening here? Here's 2 of your pockets. I like to go ahead and just close my stuff up right now. But like I say, you don't actually have to close this up just yet, because when you sew this onto the apron, you're going to stitch that down anyway. But just wanted to just show you how to use that. So now I have my 2 pockets. These were my straps. You're just going to simply iron them down as well. Okay. Try to get them nice and even and ironed down. And these are your straps. This is one of those 3-inch pieces that we had. So there's another strap, and you're going to iron the next one the same way. To get your seams open nicely, you can just open up the seam just like this with your iron, and then press it down with your hand. Okay, so those are both for your straps. That's going to go on the side of the apron. And then this is your neck strap. I'm trying to iron this one open. I know I could have done this off camera, but I just wanted to show you guys how I got this done. Okay, and so there's your neck strap. Then, of course, this was your ruffle piece that's going to go on the bottom of the apron. So that's what I'm going to show you next. You go ahead and move the iron and the ironing board out of the way. Move all this other stuff out the way. I just need my pin cushion now. And what we're going to do is take one piece of the apron. Doesn't matter which piece, okay? I'm going to go ahead and choose this one right here. See, so when you open this out, you guys, it already looks like your apron, right? Okay? And what you're going to do is simply take this ruffle here, and remember where you sewed those two pieces, 4-inch pieces together? Lay that right there on the center fold of your apron and pin it. Okay? Now what you're going to do is go ahead and pin this to this bottom half of the apron. And your ruffle should be facing up towards the apron. And I pinned this on both sides. Don't worry about the floss, just make sure the ends are out the way. Okay, so now that's pinned to there, and then you're just going to simply pull the gathers to fit. And the reason I had you to put that right here in the middle is because you can do one side first and then you can do the other side, and make sure the gathers are spreaded out evenly, like so. Okay? And then once you get that like that, then go ahead and pin the rest of it down. And you can still smooth these out when you're actually sewing this as well. Okay, so once you have this all pinned down, I'll pull some more of this away. One more pin. Then what you're going to do is take this over to your sewing machine and run a 3/8-inch seam right below the zigzag there, or above the zigzag if you're sewing, and you're going to sew that down. Okay, so I'm going to see you over at the machine in a second. So now we're back over at the sewing machine, and I'm simply just going to be sewing this gathered piece to the bottom of the apron. I'm going to back stitch, and once again it's just a 3/8-inch seam, and you can take your time and make sure your gathers are laying nicely. And if you put pins in here, you're making sure that you remove those pins so that you don't break your needle. That's why it's good to have some of the clips. They do sell some clips that you can use. The gathers look nice though, so I'm happy with those gathers. But like I say, you want to work with this and make sure that they're nice, laying down nice and straight. And I'm removing these pins because I don't want to go across them. I'm just laying these gathers in here, like I said, nicely. come out. You know, this is taking a little time. Make sure I have everything nice here. Get to the edge here. Okay, now what you want to do now is go ahead and you want to pull out that embroidery floss. And it may take a little work to pull it out, but take your time and just pull it out. And see, I pulled that out, and I can use that again, okay? But now my gather is sewn onto the bottom here, and we want to leave that up like this, okay? You can either take your pinking shears and cut this, or you could take your regular scissors and cut across this. I'm not going to worry about it too much because it's going to be in the inside. It's not going to show, okay? Okay, so now that we've had our ruffle sewn to the bottom, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the pockets on. And you're going to line your pocket up with that fold, okay? And 3 inches down from the armhole. So if I put my armhole right here on one of the lines on my mat and count down 3 inches and come across, this point or edge of the pocket should be here. This point should be aligned with the fold line, and then we have this point here. And you can go ahead and you can pin that down. And you're going to do the same thing for the other side of the apron. You're going to pin that pocket down as well. Okay, so it should look like that. So you're going to have that little pocket there. And then for the other side of the apron, you're going to do the same thing. Kind of line this up with one of the lines, count down 3 inches. And this pocket should start about here. Remember, the point is on the fold. Make sure it's lined up nicely. Now, this is where, before you put the pocket on, if you're going to add any rickrack or anything like that, it's best to go ahead and put it on the pocket now. Okay? So I'll probably be putting that on this pocket and then sewing that down as well. Also, what you want to do, I'm going to pin this one down. Even though I'm going to put the rickrack on when I go over to the sewing machine, I'm going to still pin this down so that it's in place. And then what you want to do is that front part of the apron, okay, take one of your 3-inch wide straps that you sewed together, and you're going to lay it here, and you're going to lay it right up here on the, maybe a little 1/8 of an inch away, well, 3/8 inch of away, I'm sorry, 3/8 inch of away from the armhole edge, and you're going to pin that down. I'll just move that out the way right there. And you're going to do the other side the same way. Bring it 3/8 inches down from the armhole edge. Line it up with the edge, side edge of the apron. And you're going to pin that down. So you're going to sew these across. And you're going to sew your pocket on. And on the other one, you're going to sew the pocket on. But I am going to remove that pocket, and I'm going to go ahead and put the rickrack on it. And then I'm going to be back to show you how it's sewn together. Okay, we're back, and what I did is I went ahead and I sewed the pocket here, 3/8 inch seam on each side. It's kind of sewn in a V. I made sure that I reinforced the ends with a back stitch. I went ahead and I sewed down, my scissors, I sewed down the tie straps, the straps for the ties, leaving a 3/4 of an inch seam, I'm going to tuck these straps inside the pocket. Okay. And then what I did with the other one, I had removed the pocket off, and I went ahead and sewed the rickrack on the top part of that pocket. I didn't put anything on the other pocket. I didn't have anything available. And now what we're going to do is we're going to lay this piece of the apron on top of this other piece here, lining up the sides, the bottom, and the armholes. And remember, we tuck those straps in, the tie straps in, so that we don't sew them up. And we're going to only have one piece left after we do this. So what you're simply going to do is pin this down, and you're going to pin it starting here. You're going to pin it, and pin it, and pin it. And then you're going to sew the same way. You're going to sew around here of the armhole, sew down the side, sew around the armhole, down the side, and then across the bottom. Or you can sew across the bottom first, okay, after it's pinned, and then come up both sides and around the arm. You're going to leave the neck part open, okay, because that's how we're going to get this neck strap in there. So leave that part open. Don't worry about it, okay? Okay, what I've done is I've went over to my sewing machine, and as I said prior, I sewed the armholes, I sewed down the side and across the bottom, and I sewed those two apron pieces together, okay? And now what I'm going to do is simply cut the corners of the ends diagonal, like I've showed you before previously. Just cut those 4 ends so that they will turn inside out pretty nicely. The top part that I had you to leave open, you're just going to simply stick your hand in, grab one of the ends, and pull it out to turn this out right side out. You're going to turn right side out, okay? And you're going to stick your hand back down in here, okay, to poke out those ends. Pull that tie part out. Okay, just get this all turned right side out. Pull this in, and that got stuck in there a little bit. I think it's only a stitch or so. There we go. So I can pull that out if that happens. I got it cut up a little bit. Okay, so we have our ties. We have our little pocket here. We have the ruffles on the edge. We'll work with those in a second. And this is the other side of the apron. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and iron this really nicely. We're going to turn under a 3/8 inch seam here at the top and iron it down as well. And then we're going to, when you turn this under, maybe I can go ahead and get this ironed really quick. I don't like doing a lot of ironing while we're on doing the video. And this one got caught a little bit too, but if it catches up a little, you guys can always, I want to tuck that in there. And because I clipped it a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and use a little piece of that seam tape. I'm going to tuck that in here, right up under here. I'm going to get that iron down. I'm going to get my iron hot enough. So when you turn this inside out, if you cut up any of the ruffle in the wrong seam or whatever, you can always take your seam ripper or your little nippers and clip that thread. And then how I just did here, go ahead and, I didn't get in there all the way. Okay, I'll fix that in a second. Okay, so that side looks nice. And we're just going to simply iron everything down. And get to this edge over here. Make sure you open out these seams really nice. Okay. And we're going to top stitch this. So I'll be able to tuck that little, it's just a tiny little piece that's sticking out. I'm going to fix that. But if you don't make a mistake with yours, you won't have to do that. But you won't even notice it after I'm done. And I'm just simply ironing the armhole seams and down the sides and across the bottom. Let's get this out here. And while I have this here, like I say, I'm going to turn under 3/8 of a seam. About that much. I'm going to iron this. I'm going to flip this one and iron it. And then we're going to get these edges over here to match. I use my little scissors a lot here. And I'm going to tuck this one in. Whatever works to get this tucked in. And get enough tucked in. There we go. And you're going to simply take the raw edge that you did not close, and you're going to just put it on, tuck it in here, and pin it. Kind of tuck in a little bit more than the 3/8 of an inch, of course, because you want to catch that up. Okay, and this side over here is where you're going to do a buttonhole. Right here is where you're going to sew down one of your buttons. And then you're going to sew another button right in the back of that button. So, but you're not going to put that button in, put the buttons on yet, because you're going to sew this across here, a 3/8 inch seam top stitch around the entire apron, okay? So, let me put this here so you guys can see. Oh, I didn't do this one side over here. Let me do this side. You guys do know that this is done live, so therefore any little mistakes I'm making or whatever, you're seeing them. So if you make these same mistakes, you'll be able to correct them as well. So I'm just opening this out. Okay, that's the only side I hadn't ironed down, you guys. So, there we go. I have a little bit of water dripped over here, so I don't want to put this in that. But, however, so far that's your apron. And now all we're going to do is start here, go across the top with a top stitch, go around the armhole, down the side, across the bottom, back up the other side, across this armhole, and we're going to have our apron done right after that, okay? So I'll be back with the last part of this so that you can see the top stitch on this apron. Okay, you guys, I'm back, and what I've done is top stitch around, like I said before, and I've added the button. I've added a button on the reverse side as well as this side here. And then you're just going to go ahead and make a buttonhole. You may need to measure the child that's going to be wearing this. However, you can always cut this strap, tuck it under, and top stitch it as well if it's too long, because we did cut this at 22 inches. So they may not need that much up around their neck, but just simply make a buttonhole, and that way when you unbutton it from the front, you can also button it from the reverse side. Okay, so that is your reversible apron. I hope that this tutorial helped you. Sorry it was so many parts and so long. However, when you're sewing live and you're taking things step by step to do them for people, you want to make sure they understand what you're doing. And I really like this, and I like the coordinating fat quarters that I use for this. However, I would have liked to put a little piece of lace there, and I can probably still do that and tack it by hand or what have you. But this is how you make the child's reversible apron out of 3 fat quarters of fabric, or if you have scraps, you can simply cut them 18 inches by 22 inches. I will be posting those measurements in the comments below. If you have any questions, please make sure to drop them in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, to like this video, and to share it with your friends. Thank you for watching. Juanita the Sewnista, all things sewn. Let's continue to make beautiful things. Bye-bye.